right, everybody. Thank you for coming in and attending. Welcome to Code 3 Industries podcast. And we have a great guest for you today. My guest is good friend Chad Cross, corporal with the United States Marine Corps, former St. Louis police officer and SWAT member. So, Chad, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for being on.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. Good catching up again.
Likewise. So, Chad, just tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself. Well, let's see. Well, first off, tell me what made you want to go into the Marine Corps.
I I was one of those kids that always dreamed. Yeah, I dreamt of it as far back as I can remember. Honest to God, being the little. I mean, growing up in the early '80s, a different day and age. It was GI Joe, Star Wars, all those things. I've probably burned enough GI Joe dolls to start a plastic factory with. But yeah, I and just inherently drawn to it. Always liked war movies, and of course the A Team. My brothers and I, A Team was our favorite deal, and it was just inherent in me. Honestly, there was never I can't remember any one thing that just really prompted me to want to be, in the military or anything. But and even as a young kid, a little bit eccentric, kind of an extremist, you know what I mean? And I was just like, well, if I'm going to join the military, I want to be one of the baddest motherfuckers on the planet. I'm going to become a Marine. And yeah, so I'd been 18 for about a month when I left for boot camp out there on the West Coast. I'm a Hollywood Marine, and I don't care what the East Coast guys say. We're a fuck of a lot tougher than you. It's not even debatable. You guys had to deal with fucking sand fleas or lice or whatever the fuck it was. We had mountains, motherfucker. You know what I mean? So,
You're gonna piss off a lot of Paris Island jarheads.
PAPI is legendary, man. I'm just giving them shit. It's I still think, despite all the things that were kind of turning the military into a regressive social experiment. Marine Corps is always going to be the toughest boot camp, and I know those drill instructors are like, "Not on my watch, motherfucker. We are still going to brutalize these people and make them Marines." But so yeah, it's just as far back as I can remember. So and I ended up doing 4 years active duty, and I was out for about a year. And a childhood friend of mine, we're still friends to this day. We joined the Corps together. He talked me into join. He joined the Army. At the time, it was like 100% tuition assistance and this and that. And so I had the Chapter 30 GI Bill, which really is like $600 a month. I'm like, that covers like maybe 2 books now. So, degenerate, loser that I was, I didn't buy books or tuition. I got a leather jacket, and I was the only guy in Lindenwood University driving a Corvette around. Years later, I'm like, man, where did all these fucking college bills come from? But yeah, so I ended up doing 4 years there, and then another 7 or 8 with the Army, and then joined
Wow.
St. Louis City PD.
So before we jump into your time with St. Louis PD, just can you tell us a little bit about your time with both the Marines and the Army? What you liked, what you didn't like, just overall general experience.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I was an infantryman by trade. I was an 0331. It's a machine gunner. And after SOI, you typically go to a Victor unit or a line unit, stateside. So you're going to go to 1st Marines or 5th Marines if you're out on the West Coast. And I don't remember if any guys got sent out east. Some guys went to Hawaii. Some guys went to 29 Palms. And I'll never remember my piece of shit platoon sergeant, man. This guy was a savage, Sergeant White. Okay. He would never cuss. He would call us lettuce heads and cheese balls. Really religious guy, but an absolute freaking stud, man. I mean, Ranger qualified, scout sniper. The guy would take leave to run marathons and stuff. And, when we do our hikes, our humps, as we call them, 10, 15, 20, 25 milers, the first sergeant would be like, hey, you can sit this one. Because it just wasn't challenging to him at all. And
Wow.
we finished our specialty school, and they're reading out orders. Okay. A lot of guys are going to 1st Marines, a lot of guys going to 5th Marines, some guys going to, some other units. And Me and like three other guys were left. I'm like, man, what the fuck's going on? And he goes, it's like me, a guy named Drosty, a guy named Booker, and one other fellow. And he goes, you guys are going to Hawaii. It's like, fuck yeah. And he's like, just kidding, 29 Palms. I was like, no, you mother. No, it's like the asshole of the fucking core. 29 Palms, the stumps. And what I did was I went to this other guy who had the same MOS as me. He'd just gotten married. I'm like, and he had orders to go to Oki. And it's like, hey, I pulled this shit out of my ass. And if I ever see him, I still owe him $100. I'm like, hey, they're not going to let you bring your wife over to Okinawa. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. I was like, so we went to the first sergeant and he let us exchange orders. So I got to go to Oki, and that
Wow.
little bastard went to, yeah, I hope he's not watching this. And if he, I owe you $100, bro. Cause I said, I'll give you $100 and
Gee.
bought my way to to a fucking trip to Oki. And yeah, so was over
Jesus.
there. Yeah, I was over there for a year. Came back to the States. I was 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, Bravo Company,
Mm.
Camp Pendleton, 1st Mar Div. Did my time there. Went to Edson Range and was a marksmanship instructor at the world famous Edson Range. And then, yeah, dude, I wouldn't trade it for anything, but there's a lot of things I would have done differently if I could go back. Cause honestly, being 18 years old and, that's a massive responsibility. And if you didn't have any before you kind of show up to boot camp, a lot of people just don't take to it.
Mm.
And I would have done some things differently, but I still got out and I got in a little bit of stupid NJP trouble, and I still got out as an E4. I was on track to having a good career. Is really starting to kind of come around, but the military is famous for massive amounts of nonsensical bullshit that people, just like
Mm.
police departments. And what do they say? It is
Right.
what it is, and that's the way it's always been. I don't like that attitude. If something's broken, you fix it. Okay. Instead of just, oh, it is what it is, and it's the way it's always been. Those are not acceptable answers to recurring problems.
Right.
Okay, you fix problems. If you have a problem with, a Marine, a soldier, an officer, hey, fix it. You don't just like pass them around. Make them somebody else's problem. So yeah, I got out, and in hindsight, I wish I would stay because I would have retired years ago. But hey man, wasted years. I'll never, you know, I'll never not look back and have some regrets. But for the most part, dude, I loved it. That's one of the defining moments of my life is becoming a Marine. So
First off, thank you for your service. And
thank you, man. Hey, listen, that never gets old hearing that, man. Honest to God, because I know some people just kind of do it arbitrarily, but it means the world to us. Somebody giving you a heartfelt thank you, and going to Applebee's and getting some frozen entrees on Veterans Day for $2 off. But it was all worth it, bro.
no,
I
nothing
got the
beats.
kung pao chicken, appetizer for $3. Man, it was all worth it. All the suffering,
That's
all
it.
the pain and suffering was worth it.
Right.
No, listen. I've never been the guy that wants a pat on the back for it. You know what I mean? It's just, but it does feel good to, when people give you a heartfelt thank you for your service. Because man, you've been an officer. I've been on both sides of the coin. I've been a Marine. I've been a soldier. I've been deployed multiple times as a police officer. People don't, unless you have that firsthand perspective, they don't know, the kind of sacrifices you make, and it's okay. I believe in sacrifice. I believe in putting others before myself. So this was a no-brainer, to become a Marine or a soldier or a police officer, because I believe in the common good. And if I could contribute to that, I'm going to. And I've missed, I, you know, everything you can think of: holidays, birthdays, weddings, and it's okay. One of our teammates was getting married at the Jewel Box in Forest Park. Forest Park is one of the 8 largest urban parks in America. It's here in St. Louis. Gorgeous, and they were getting married at the Jewel Box. We got called out. We had a 7250 for a guy that killed a police officer that day. So we missed that wedding. But hey, that's the job, man. I'll never regret that. So yeah, dude, it never gets old hearing that. So
Thank you. And you bring up a good point. I think it's for someone or people who have never been in that situation, those who haven't been like a first responder in or in the military, I think sometimes it is hard for people to realize how much of a sacrifice it is. But at the same time, it's the job. It's what we signed up
Yeah.
for. And,
Yeah.
and it
I
comes
was,
with it.
yeah, I used to tell those guys, it's the guys that, nothing made me cringe more than somebody reminding you that they put their life on the line every day. I'm
Yeah,
like, hey, dude, this is what makes the job fun, is not knowing if I'm going home at the end of the shift. Okay. I don't want to work anywhere else unless I know, hey man, there is an element of unknown here. You don't know, you never know who you're walking up on that car stop. You don't know. There's a lot of unknowns.
right.
And that also breeds complacency. I never got complacent, and that's where people start to slip up. Is the apathy and the complacency. But I've always gone into this with, hey, I'm going to go out there and make a difference in at least one person's life today for the good. You know what I mean? And I built a lot of bridges, and I feel like I cleaned up a lot of messes that unfortunately some other people would make with the way they treat people, talk down to them, be disrespectful, this and that. It's a tactic. Treating people, it's just like, it turns out treating people with kindness and decency and courtesy goes a lot farther than motherfucking them or talking down to them and shit like that.
Right.
And I always believed, like, hey, I don't want to be the guy that pisses this dude off today and somebody else has to pay the price for something I've done. The law of unintended consequences, they call it. I go up, I pull this guy over, I do a Terry, whatever it is, I talk down to him, I disrespect and whatever it is. I might get away with it. And then Nick might bump into this guy later on at the Quick Trip. And the guy's like, you know what? Fuck the police. And now Nick's got to pay for what I did to somebody, so I've always looked at it like that. And I made it 15 years with 0 use of force complaints and only 4 complaints that weren't sustained for language, whatever that means. So yeah,
Right.
that's a freaking miracle in and of itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm proud of that, man. I wasn't out there to hurt anybody. I mean, I'm not, I believe in my skill set. I'm more than capable of inflicting great harm on you. I don't want to, it's never what my purpose was. So.
Right. And you bring up a good point, and I want to go back to that about this idea of, when you're walking out the door, you don't know if it's going to be your last day.
Yeah, you don't.
You're
You
walking up
really,
on a stop, you go on a radio call, you don't know if it's going to go sideways, if it's going to be a clusterfuck, if it's going to end
sure.
horribly. You don't know.
Yeah.
Um, being in military and as a cop, how did you deal with that? And what I mean by that is obviously it's a thought that I think crosses every veteran or every cop's mind, whether on deployment or, going out, suiting up, getting their shop ready, go out on the beat, saying goodbye to your loved ones, not knowing if it's going to be the last time you say so, because it just might well be. It's part of the job.
Yeah.
Um, to me personally, I think cops who've said, "Oh, I don't think about that," I think that's full of shit. I think we all think about it at some point. We just keep it in the back of our heads because it is a reality. And I was just wondering, how did you personally deal with that? Because if you think about it nonstop on the job, you're going to drive yourself fucking crazy and you're not going to be able to do your job.
So when we think about exhaustion, we think of physical exhaustion. Mental and emotional exhaustion is far more prevalent in that job. If you think about that shit constantly, it will exhaust you. Okay.
Mm.
So I just looked at it in a way. I'm like, it's a very real, um, you know, it, it could happen. But I've been on that job long enough to know I have run across and have seen so much violence, so many murders, homicides, gunshot victims. He had a guy pull his shirt up one time and it looked like Swiss cheese. This guy had been shot, over a dozen times and survived. I'm like, when it's your time, it's your time. You know what I mean? And there's nothing I can do about that. Some people get shot once and die. Some people they get stabbed once and that's it, man. When it's your time, it's your time. I believe that more than But there's also, you know, a lot of tactical things you can do, and, you know, certain frames of mind, certain attitudes to mitigate the likelihood of all those things happening. You know, the way you approach a car, the way you know, when I see somebody walk up to a car stop and they put their hands up like this, I'm like, holy shit. Like, you're just begging to get fucking gut shot, stabbed right here under. We had a guy years and years and years ago. Somebody missed a gun on a pat down. The guy was in the back seat, reached behind his waist and fired a shot and hit him here and killed him. Okay, through the fucking window and everything. When is your time? It's your time, man. I mean, imagine that. That's like a 1 in a 5 million probably type of thing, you know.
Right.
Now there are things you can do, like I said, to mitigate the odds of those things happening. You know, the way you position your body on a car stop, the way you control a suspect, you know, practicing tactics, being physically and mentally capable. You know, I tell people all the time when I do any kind of training, whether it's firearms or fighting, I'm like, hey, listen, it all starts up here with your frame of mind. Okay, you got to tell yourself, like, hey, no matter what, I'm going to be the only one leaving this situation alive. And I really impart that on women. I'm like, hey, don't think you're not capable of handling business, because you are. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. But it all starts with your mentality and your frame of mind. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but it goes for anything. Your outlook on things, you know. But yeah, you know, doing things properly, you know, and with SWAT, our big thing was maximizing speed, efficiency, and violence while minimizing risk. You know, but you're never going to get the perfect scenario. You know, hey man, I hugged that wall a little bit too close, you know, making that room entry. I did this, my footwork is a little bit fucked up and this and that. But I always say, don't let, you know, perfect be the enemy of good. You know, there's good enough and then there's perfect. If you're worried about doing it perfect every time, I think you're going to overthink and it's going to cause you to stall, you know, and stalling is one of those things that might cost you your life as well. So yeah, you know, having the proper mentality, and it's a good, it is a good time to segue kind of as an aside. We have been under the microscope since the Mike Brown thing, and rightly so. You know, the public should be able to rightfully question why we do things the way we do, or why we got these outcomes, or why we handle certain situations the way they do. But it's our job to educate them. Okay. You and I will look at a situation like, oh yeah, it's perfectly justifiable. And people are like, how can you come up with that, you know, explanation? I'm like, okay, well, here, it all starts with, we have 10,000 case law studies, and they determine that this is the best way per the law, per the Constitution, to handle a situation like this. Police departments don't do anything about educating the public. And when I've had a ton of people, and I respect people's rights, and I also have never taken advantage of their ignorance, of being unable to articulate their own rights. You know, they're like, well, how come you didn't read me my rights? I'm like, I'm not interrogating you. I don't have to Mirandize you because you're in no danger of incriminating yourself. Okay. So they'll see TV shows or this or that, or, you know, you get the sovereign citizens who like to quote, you know, Magna Carta law.
Yeah.
Like, well, bro, it's pre Magna Carta. That's part of the Hammurabi code right there. We're not using the Hammurabi code anymore. You know, it's a little outdated. But I've never taken advantage of somebody not knowing their rights, just as a matter of principle. I don't believe in taking advantage of people's ignorance, you know, especially to get over on them. But yeah, training. If you take, we'll say 1,000 of these incidents, you know, because there's been plenty of them that have been in the news. It's lack of confidence in your skills, and it's lack of proper training. Well, when you defund us, now we can't pay for the training that we need. So it's this big negative cycle that is basically going to freaking guarantee more police fuck ups. Okay. And you get the people that like to look down on you the most, or it's like you've never been in any sort of mild confrontation in your life, never mind a life or death situation. You know, you're fighting extremely powerful biological, hardwired through evolution impulses of fight or flight. I got to override that. Okay, when those rounds start flying, I gotta keep, you know, I gotta hold long. I gotta stay on target. I can't turn and run. You know what I mean? But that's where training comes in. And if you don't provide us the training, how do you expect us to respond accordingly? So yeah, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but it all kind of ties in together. It's lack of training. It's like, and when I see people pile on like a resisting, and it's always been my experience that most resistings were people just trying to get away, not necessarily trying to harm you or fight you.
Right.
They're just trying to get away. You know what I mean? So, and like I said, I never had a use of force complaint, and I've gone hands on plenty of times, but it's because I have trained, in BJJ, grappling, MMA for close to 20 years now. All I got to do is get a hold of you, and it's pretty much a done deal, and I can do it without hurting you, and I'm proud of that. I'm not, hand to God, I'm not the kind of person that likes harming anybody. So yeah, it's just the lack of training is going to ensure, more lawsuits, more negative outcomes, and that's the irony of it. It's like, you don't want to pay for us. Listen, I understand pay raises and stuff are some kind of, sometimes a difficult subject to broach, especially now where everybody's struggling. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm a realist. Let's be real, Nick. If you don't pay people a livable wage, the stress starts to compound. All these, it almost guarantees some kind of fuck up somewhere. We had guys working 2 shifts for fucking, out there in LA when Soren told me, these guys, the hours. I was like, I'm not surprised, but I'm like, this is a recipe for freaking disaster. So I like to look at the big picture of all this. Okay, why is this happening? Let's unpack it. Let's walk it back. Let's get to the root cause and let's fix the problem. Nobody wants to fix the problems. Everybody just wants to point the fingers. It's them, it's them, it's them. And when it comes to police citizen, dynamic, I'm always like, okay, what can we fix first? I don't want to give them any, objectively reasonable ammunition to come after us. They can be like, hey man, why is this? I got to say, you know what? You're right. I understand where you're coming from. And I don't disagree with you, but let's do this. Let's sit down at the table. Let's air our, because this is a relationship. Any relationship takes compromise and effective communication, not just wanting to be right. Okay.
Right.
And you can't get a reasonable voice, it seems like, anymore. People are just more worried about being right, and they just love that feeling of self-righteous indignation. They'd rather be sanctimonious and feel like they're right, or like they got some sort of Pyrrhic victory over you on social media, instead of being like, hey, I had to take a loss. I had to take it on the chin and be like, you know what? They framed this in a way that I couldn't logically or objectively argue with. So I want to move forward together with people. I really do, man. I like fixing problems, and I still see a lot of problems between, officers and not all officers, obviously, but people look at us as a monolith. So I had to go through riots because of what Derek Chauvin. I don't know Derek Chauvin. You know what I mean? I don't know Darren Wilson, even though he lived a couple towns over. I never heard of the guy. I had to pay the price for what he did. And it turns out, through a lot of very, very stringent scrutiny per the Obama DOJ, he was found essentially to have been okay using deadly force in that situation. Do I like it? No. I wish we could have got a different outcome, but we didn't. And as it turns out, via the constitutional laws and, trainings and tactics that we are bound to, he was found justified. That's all there is to it. Let's put it behind us. I'm not saying forget it. Let's put it behind us and let's learn some very valuable lessons from it and move forward together. You know what I mean? I would love to see people do that. I don't think it's going to happen, man. Unfortunately, I think because of social media, people are more concerned with getting a story out while it's hot. Okay, we had 7 weeks after Mike Brown, we had another shooting, police involved, young man named Vondra Myers. Okay, and I was one of the first 2 on scene, and he was there. He had been killed in a shootout with a police officer that he shot at first, and the firearm that he used, he had also posted on social media a couple days prior. Very distinct. It wasn't like, oh man, that could be very distinct, two-toned, semi-automatic. Okay. And I saw that line right next to him. And you know, before his body was cold, the lies had started. He was unarmed, he was tased and then shot. All he had was a sandwich. And I'm just like, folks, what do you hope to accomplish by doing this? Okay, Ferguson is right next door to St. Louis. This entire region is highly volatile. The Mike Brown thing prompted riots and stuff. Some of them in other countries. It's insane. And I think a lot of people just wanted answers. I think a lot of people were just bad actors. And so the way I conduct myself when I'm on duty is like, I'm going to go out there and make a positive difference today. So somebody will walk away with saying, you know what, man, that Cross is a pretty fair dude. You know what I mean? I mean, you're talking about a guy that grew up on the mean streets of St. Charles, where I had to see people littering on a daily basis. Do you know what that does to a person, Nick? Littering, jaywalking, double parking. You talk about trauma, man. I mean,
That's
like,
senseless. It's very
it got me
senseless.
ready for the mean streets of St. Louis, seeing people litter. I'm, it's like,
It's like,
but I hope that I answered that, succinctly and without too much fat, so to speak.
no, God, you brought up several really good points just regarding just kind of the scope of what's going on with policing today, um, what the future looks like, what can be done, what needs to be done, what's lacking. Um, Gosh, I feel like we can do we could sit down here for another 3, 4 hours talking about just one of
We
those
would only
topics.
scratch the surface. There's so many
Right.
facets to the dynamic. I like to do. I'm trying to get better about not getting aggravated at things that are out of my control. Okay, like there's a million podcasts now. There's a million foundations. There's a million this. And I'm like, listen, there can never be too many. Okay, because Jocko, big fan of Jocko.
Hmm.
And he has the mentality. He's like, man, we'd be in firefights, and my guys would be like, you know, we're surrounded. We're this, we're that. And he's just like, good, good. It puts you in that frame of mind that no matter what is presented to you, you're going to work through it, as opposed to the opposite. Like, what do we do? What do we do? You know what I mean?
Right.
And again, it just comes back to your mentality. And I go out there with that mentality, like, hey, I'm going to go out there today and I'm going to make a positive impact on somebody's life. And I might be the guy, like we just talked about. I go out there and motherfuck so and so, where they're going to take it out on Nick. Or how about I'm the guy that goes out there and says, hey, man, I never introduce myself as an officer. I always got kind of like, I always roll my eyes when people just go in that really robotic, good afternoon, sir, ma'am. Officer so and so. What? Where are we coming from? I'm like, it's none of our business, and it automatically kind of puts people back on their heels. I know it's small talk, but I'm like, think about what you're saying. Stop repeating shit just because officer so and so did it. Officer so and so did it. Officer, find who you are, and develop your own unique personality traits that will help you get positive outcomes between you and citizens, instead of walking up and saying, good afternoon, I'm Officer Cross, the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, most people are just like, just give me my ticket, bro. I'm like, dude, I don't even know how to use the ticket machine. Okay. I'm just going to ask you not to drive like an entitled asshole, you know? And I always, my goal is to always walk away having some sort of if you have to book them, if you have to write them this or that, at least be like, hey, man, I'm not even a fan of doing this. And Nick, hand to God, I've never had a problem, man. I've never had a problem. I just talk to people on a level. I try to connect with them. And funny enough, the tattoos and stuff, I mean, like, where's that fucking camera? There it is. I'm buttoned up, man. I got tattoos from shoulders to knuckles and this and that. I can't tell you how many times that was an awesome icebreaker. And these departments, I feel like, are missing a very unique opportunity, because they'll say, well, we want to reflect the community we serve. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But I reflect it as much or more than you do in this day and age. Okay. You got to be willing to progress when it makes sense. Every progressive idea is not always good, but being able to connect with somebody, I mean, dude, I think it's hard. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody in St. Louis that doesn't have a tattoo at this point. You know what I mean? Especially being on the streets and stuff. And it's always been a really good talking point and stuff. And I look for any angle I can to connect with the citizen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I don't want them to feel like there's this divide because there's not. We're just doing a job. You know what I mean? It's an essential job and it has to be done. But there's automatically just inherently as human beings, we don't like. Listen, when I got a police car behind me, I'm like, I'm like, dude, 3 and 9 on the wheel. Am I doing the speed limit? I get all nervous and shit. I'm like, I'm not even doing anything. I'm driving like a complete fucking toad. If anything, I can get pulled over for driving too slow.
Right.
You know what I mean? So any opportunity I get to really connect with people on a level, I think just really exacerbates the possibilities of a much better outcome, whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying?
No, most definitely. It's the good, I think a good phrase I heard was verbal judo. Like if
That's what
it's
they got to listen. The military's got an acronym for everything.
mm,
Verbal judo is one of those. I'm like, hey, how about we just go to real judo? Boom, hit an uchimata, sit on you, and sternum rubbing. Like, you done? You done? You know what I mean? But yeah, there's something to be said for it. But again, to me, it's just such robotic nonsense. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, people know when you're being sincere. People know when your heart's in the right place. And I always start as low as I can. Hey, I'm Chad. I never say I'm Officer Cross. Hey, I'm Chad. We know what's going on. What do we got going on? How do we want to fix this? What do you guys want, the outcome to be? And I do everything I can within my scope. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So yeah, I mean, verbal judo works, but I just think there's some tactics that are probably outdated and just need to be reimagined.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, it's when treat someone with respect, whether they're a victim or a suspect, for
Goes a
the most
long
part,
way.
it does go a long way. And, you know, I would much rather talk someone into handcuffs than, me wind up getting some big use of force, hurting
Yeah,
myself, hurting them, hurting my partner. It's
I've said that. Yeah, Nick, I've said that. I've said that 1,000 times. I said I talk them into handcuffs. You know what I mean? I hand to God can't think of a time that I had a resisting that was my arrest. I've assisted on a ton,
mhm,
but I can't remember a time where I ever. I mean, besides being on SWAT, when we were out there super aggressive, working the streets, the resistings were always them taking off in cars or bailing out and running on foot. It was never like a physical fight. You know what I mean?
right.
So I've assisted on a bunch of. I can't ever remember one. Mike, hey, boom, pistol paralyze them. They go down. Hey, do this for me, my man. And I'll even I shit you. I'll even laugh and joke with them. I'm like, holy shit, bro. Like, why do you make me run so far, man? I can always get a laugh out of them. I shit you not. Even when the cuffs are on, it's over. You know what I mean? And I still, even in a situation like that, will try to get some sort of positive outcome to where the next time they're in a situation like that, hey, the police are not out here to hurt me or fuck me up or kill me.
Right.
Okay. But I can also respond differently next time and not,
Mhm.
take them on a foot chase or a car pursuit or something like that. So if I can leave them with like even in a really, you're going to jail, it's not going to get much worse. Even if I can just leave them with a somewhat positive ending to it, it might help the next time. You know what I'm saying? You
Exactly.
know, it
Yeah,
could be a positive law of unintended consequences type of situation.
exactly. Paying it forward to the next cop who might have the
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
interaction, which, this guy, you treat him like a piece of shit. And okay, next time, I see someone in blue, they're gonna pay for it.
That's the whole point right there, man. You can call it the butterfly effect,
There you
unintended
go.
consequence, whatever, the same thing. Something I did today might negatively affect somebody down the road. So everything you do is going to have some sort of outcome. And it might not be something that affects you personally. I could do something out here and it affects Nick in LA. No shit.
Yeah,
Look at George Floyd, perfect example. Had nothing to do with that guy. I
right.
wouldn't have handled that situation like that in a million years. Okay. And that affected me personally, and it affected a lot of other people down here personally. Business owners lost their livelihoods because of that. So that's a perfect a textbook case of unintended consequences.
Exactly. And I think, you bring up a good point. I think law enforcement is the perfect medium for that butterfly effect because we are unique in the fact that if something goes sideways in some Rhode Island, just for example, and media gets hold of it and it great grabs national attention,
Oh
it
yeah,
affects me and you and every other cop in the United States
already we're already
with
guilty of whatever they said happened, whether it happened that way or not.
exactly. And then by extension, just like what happened with, George Floyd, businesses start, losing their livelihoods because of the riots and all, everything that kind of snowball after that. And it's this very crazy snowball effect that's very unique to law enforcement that really doesn't
100%
happen with a lot of other careers or
perfect,
employment.
perfect example. Doctors, whom I respect tremendously. I have a friend, Michelle. She's a doctor and brilliant. I mean, absolutely. Like, I'm like, teach me. When we talk about nerd shit all the time, neuromechanical matching, excitation, contraction, coupling principles, all these, biological things. And she's fascinating, man. Absolutely freaking total brainiac. But doctors are also responsible for about 250,000 deaths a year through what they call medical error. 250,000. Police kill around 1,000 people a year, and the vast majority, probably 85, 90%, are unquestionably justified. Okay. You get some that are a little in that gray area and some that are straight up not justified. Okay. Doctors don't bear the collective guilt that police officers do. Okay. And it all kind of circles back to that's Nick and I, we can't do shit about it. Something that happened in Rhode Island, Minnesota, Minneapolis with George Floyd. Nothing I can do about it. You know what I can do about it? I can do something that's in my control. Those things are beyond our control. What is in my control is how I treat somebody today on this traffic stop, on whatever, this call may have been. I can treat them with kindness, decency, courtesy, and respect. And it's enough to start somewhere. Big things have small beginnings. And if I can listen, because here's a great example. I'm off duty. Okay. I'm driving in uniform. I'm driving home one night and I see this person pushing a 10 speed. Like, for one, I'm like, who the hell fucking has a 10 speed anymore? And I look again, this is at night on Kings Highway. Okay. South St. Louis. And I look again and dude's face was covered in gore. And I was like, holy shit. So I fly over there. What happened? Are you okay? I start asking those leading questions to try to assess how much serious head trauma there is. Yeah, hey, who's the president? What's the date today? Blah, blah, this and that. It was mostly looked like superficial facial wounds, but his nose had a gaping hole in the bridge and just shit
Oh,
hanging out everywhere. And
shit.
turns, he seemed to be cognitively okay. And I said, what happened? And he has a shirt on that says film the police. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So I'm on eggshells already. But I'm being genuinely kind to this person. I'm like, what happened? Turns out he was leaving an anti-police protest at the Muni, which is an outdoor like concert, beautiful place over in Forest Park. They were over there protesting, well, okay, nothing to do with me. He's riding his bicycle over the overpass at Kings Highway and Highway 44, hits a raised part of the sidewalk and basically face plants into the sidewalk and just mashed his face to fucking. I mean, it was like a gaping hole. And so anyway, I get on the radio, I expedite EMS, and I said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Brandy." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay, listen, I don't care. The only thing I care about in this moment is getting you the help you need." So anyway, while we're waiting on EMS to show up, I was just kind of like, "Got to appreciate the irony of this situation, don't you?" And he knew, and I can appreciate that instead of digging in his heels. Well, police to say, "Hey, listen, dude." I said, you got to stop. You got to stop hating us so much. So much of what you've been told is not even true. And so look at this situation right here. According to the media, I should have just driven by and pointed at you and laughed and driven off, but I didn't. I'm out here out of the kindness of my heart and because it's my solemn duty to help people in need. And he got it. So hopefully the next time, he thought about going to a fuck the police protest, maybe I'm going to sit this one out. You got to start somewhere, man. It's like it's chess. It's a tactic. Small, subtle moves will add up to big, substantial moves down the line. Regarding this subject matter. So yeah, it's just things like that. We control what we can. Things that I can't control, I can't control. I don't stress out about them anymore.
And that is an awesome perspective to have. And you know, it's the ultimate butterfly effect that you want, right? Like you
Yeah,
said earlier, some of the greatest things have the smallest beginnings. And just that one small interaction, you know, can set off this chain of events that, may help 100 different officers down the line.
I hope it does, man. I swear, right at that same spot, a couple years later, there was a homicide. A young girl was found dead in her bed, and dude is boiling hot. It's like probably close to 100 degrees. And St. Louis gets hot, man, and the humidity and everything. Hey, I'm working secondary. I could have just driven past and not done shit, but there was a bunch of little kids out there. The family was over there. I went down to the Walgreens. I got a bunch of popsicles. I got a bunch of waters and stuff. And I brought them back up to the scene. Got all the kids popsicles. Talked to the adults. Hey, is there anything I can do? I'm terribly sorry. I'm not sure what happened, but I promise, our detectives will figure it out. Is there anything I can do for you? You know what I mean? And they appreciate that, man. Especially when people are vulnerable. It's usually when their defenses are the highest. But you go up there, there's a picture of me in the local paper. This is one of those calls I'll remember the rest of my life. I get a call for a missing person, okay. And contrary to popular belief, police do give a shit about missing people. I don't know. What troubles me, Nick, is not that they have any evidence or proof that we don't care, because they don't. They want it to be true. Okay. They want it to be true. I'm like, why do you want something that you really can't substantiate to be true? I don't understand that. It's just like if you ever read Don Quixote, one of the greatest literary works of all time, there's a saying that was inspired by his book called Tilting at Windmills. It basically means fighting imaginary enemies. I'm like, why do you want me to be your enemy? You're not my enemy. We're in this together. It's like it must be exhausting tilting at windmills. And I'm supposed to be an uneducated, low IQ brickhead that got picked on in high school. It's like, well, I got an A in Renaissance literature, asshole. You want to play the intellect game? Let's fucking do it. I got 37 questions right on Jeopardy. I have cheated my way to countless wins on Trivial Pursuit. You know what I mean? You don't want to go there, okay? And I go to this is a young man, early something 20s, black kid, and his family's like, well, we haven't heard from him. I'm like, okay, say, listen, be honest with me. Does he have a drug problem? Does he have any, mental capacity? No, 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 no. Okay, I said, I'll put out the report, this and that. And then a couple of days later, they find his car abandoned and had a blood smear on the passenger side headrest. And they're falling out. I said, okay. I said, listen, I said, tell me what you know. Does he have beef with anybody? He says, well, a month ago, he got in a fight with some Bosnians and they fucked him up pretty bad. I said, listen, the odds are that's what it's from. I said, but to be on the safe side, I'm going to have it towed to the lab. I'm going to have it analyzed. And I did. I towed the car to the lab, had the blood analysis and everything. And I put it out as a missing persons report. About 2 days later, call comes over the radio. Hey, a lady's walking over the River de Paris. She thinks she sees a body, but River de Paris is like just a few inches deep. Okay, unless there's a big rain, then it swells up. But it's it's normal. Like crest is like seriously like 6 or 7 inches. It's very, very low, and it's always full of cars and fucking fucking grocery carts and shit like that. Lady calls, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, that's probably like no shit. We had a call one time. A lady thought she found a baby in a trash can. It's a fucking burrito. I'm like, I guess if you just saw a piece of it, you might look like, but it's like, for one, who the fuck throws away a burrito? That's what I want to know. That's the real crime. You throw away a burrito on my watch, brother, you're going to Rikers
That's a
Island.
felony. Yeah.
It should. I mean, it
Should
should
be.
be right.
That should be a
Felony
felony.
lack of culinary fucking taste. Um, and so anyway, sure as shit, it's a body, and it's that fucking kid. It's that young guy. Okay, and it was getting towards dark, and me, three other guys went over there and pulled his body out of the river, and I walked him over to the riverbank. Okay, and I knew it was him just from the descriptions and stuff. He'd been the Bosnians had like beating his teeth out. His teeth were still all fucked up. Anyway, you know how these things are, man. Like there's some sort of like underground network where word just travels instantaneously. Immediately, a massive crowd there, including his family. And I had to walk his mom over to identify his body. I watched my parents bury a child. To lose your son to, and I don't know what happened because we investigated. We looked for trauma. Nothing. There was zero visible, signs or evidence that there was like foul play. It was like right around Thanksgiving, biggest party time of the year. I'm like, I don't know, he probably died from an exposure. I don't know. I never followed up on it. There's a picture of me though, walking with my arm around his grandma, comforting her. And it's just like, I don't fake that shit, man. I really care about those people. And it's just, being empathetic and sympathetic. And maybe it's because I experienced so much, losing so many people close to me when I was very young. My little brother died when he was 2 and I was 7. My grandfather, and then it just kind of never stopped, just burying people I love left and right. And I know that pain, and it's a really neat picture. It's in a local, pretty much openly anti-police publication, but yeah, man, it's connecting with people like that is huge. You know what I mean? And they'll never look back on that and say the police didn't do enough or the police didn't try, because they did everything I could and then some. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just things like that. I'll never forget that one. Just that was a tough one.
Definitely. And it's things like that that really stick with you. Everybody has a couple of those calls where it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
burn in the back of your head forever. But I mean,
yeah.
I wish more people would hear that it's this, because I mean, media portrays, we're a badge and a gun. People, forget that, hey, we're all humans too,
It's Nick. It's not that they forget. This is the biggest hurdle we're fighting.
right?
People love a feel good story, but they forget it in a fucking second once a shit show story comes out. It's like this weird default human setting where people, when somebody's in trouble, everybody loves that somebody else is in trouble and it's not them.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing people get in trouble. I'm like, fuck, man. I don't like that. I don't really fucking feed off of the negativity that happens to other people. I don't like it. You know what I mean? People would rather see, I was in the national news for a story. Okay. I was at the park. I was at one of the city parks where a lot of the homeless hang out, and people are just kind of naive as to what kind of people can be around there. I mean, we've straight up have had murderers basically hide out amongst them. Any number of sex offenders, people that are legit, have zero control of their faculties. I mean, legitimately clinically insane people, and I was just kind of watching off to the side, keeping an eye on them. And a little boy walked up to me. It was about 98 degrees and I had my sleeves pulled up, and he saw my tattoos. He started rubbing on my tattoos. Like, I don't, kind of like, hey, what is that? And he had Down syndrome. And anyway, I ended up spending, about an hour with him at the park, getting to know, talking to his mom and his aunt and his siblings and stuff. And after that, they went over to the local McDonald's, which I'd been on more than one shooting there, including inside the McDonald's. And I had a pair of sunglasses that I had on me when I was deployed, and I had a watch that I wore when I was deployed too. I was like, "Come here, buddy." I took my watch off and I gave it to him, and I took my shades off and gave it to him. And, somebody filmed it, of course. And then like a day or two later, I got about a dozen texts. Dude, you're all over Facebook. I'm just like, shit. What did I, you start immediately thinking, shit, shit, shit. Well, it was that. Okay. And then the local news picked it up and did a story, and it went national, national news. Yahoo picked it up, all these other stories. And that'll be forgotten in a day, man. Look what else has been forgotten. The LA wildfires. I said something last night. I was like, is LA still on fire? Because I don't hear shit about it. Our sitting president was nearly assassinated just a couple months ago. It's already old news. Okay. People have the attention span of a gnat on a crack bench, bro. But they really, really love hearing the negative shit more than the positive. That's something you have to be aware of and say, why? Why do I want to hear the negative shit? Why don't I want to hear the positive stories? It's just one of those. I don't think we'll ever be able to get past that. But the more positive ammunition we got to stop giving them ammunition to use against us. That's right. On us. Okay. You always say, how can I clean my own house first? In any kind of relationship, I'm like, okay, what are your grievances? Tell me. And if they're legit, great. If not, I'll say, listen, I don't agree with that. Here's why. The same thing about police community, the police community citizen, dynamic. We got to be able to listen to each other. People don't want to listen. They just want to dig their heels in and they want to be right. They want to feel it's more important for them to feel sanctimonious and right as opposed to just coming away with a better understanding of somebody else's perspective. And I don't know how you fix that, man. I really don't. So again, I just do what's in my power. I don't give you any ammunition to use against me. Like with my training and nutrition program, I tell people, this is how many, I said, you have one legitimate excuse for not training or eating the way I give you. And that's because you're on your way to the morgue. That's it. I don't accept anything else. Okay. I give you this much wiggle room to give me bullshit excuses. Okay. We got to look at it the same way as police officers. I can't give them any legitimate excuse to be like, well, he disrespected me. He escalated. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. He did do this. He did do that. I'm like, well, unfortunately for you, it's all on body cam and nothing of what you said was real. Okay. So it's about handling what you can and not worrying about what you can't, so.
And yeah, that in and of itself could be, God, I think a 10-hour conversation because
oh, dude, easily.
Because you're right. It feels like now rather than in the scope of law enforcement versus civilian, rather than us coming closer together, it feels like as the years go on, it is becoming more and more polarized to the extreme.
Because there are people that benefit from driving a wedge between us. Okay.
Yeah.
The media is largely responsible. Driving a wedge between, dividing us on every possible metric, race, religion, ethnicity, sexuality, anything that they can use, sports teams, for God's sake. If I ever got into a fight over somebody else, I don't give a shit about sports anyway. I would feel like the biggest fucking dildo on the planet. I'm like, did I just get my teeth knocked out because that guy's a Chiefs fan and we don't even have a football team, right? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's just so bizarre to me, but it's very much a part of human nature and the human condition to want to belong to or feel like you belong to something. Okay. And so people that really don't have any kind of skills or hobbies or anything, I think they gravitate towards, and listen, a lot of sports fans do have this shit on the outside, but the militant shit I see, it's just like, do you work out? Do you train? Do you do anything? It kind of becomes their identity. You know what I mean? And we don't have a common identity in this country. We don't. It's like every country I've been to on the planet, I'm always like, when in Rome. Okay. I observe their customs and courtesies. I'm as respectful as I can be. People come here and it's just like, on one hand, it's great that we're a melting pot. On the other, it's just like, listen, I want to see what Nick's life is like and his connection to the Hispanic and Latino and community, because this guy's going to introduce me to the best burritos on the fucking planet. Hey, I want to hang out with Cross and know what it's like to spend your childhood in the country, but we don't have common groundwork. We don't have that fucking rebar below the surface that holds us all together. And we say, hey, no matter what, at the end of the day, we're all in this together. We all bleed fucking red. and we can have our disagreements and do it, respectfully, and still love and care about one another. We just don't have that, and there are people, and this is why. Now think about this. I ask everybody to think on this for a second, no matter what your politics are. Before he ran for president, Donald Trump was one of the most beloved American figures ever. Every rapper sang about Trump. The dude was always surrounded by beautiful women, and people say, well, his dad gave him his money. I'm like, hey, if my dad gives me $100 and I turn it into 100,000, that's me being wise with it. He started with like $1 million. Now he's a multi-billionaire, and you're going to act like he's a failure. I'm like, you see it just like that. It's like so illogical and so ideologically fucking nonsensical. But you get people like that. Now, before he ran for president, I never heard him be called a racist. I never heard a single rape allegation. Hey, listen, man, if there's proof for that and stuff, like, I don't care who you are. If you're my best friend and you're a sexual predator, well, fuck you. I got no love for you. You know what I mean? He can't listen. The guy can't be bought. He can't be. Okay. And that's why he's dangerous. He's not beholden to the real people behind, like the Wizard of Oz. It wasn't the big fucking wizard. It's the man behind the curtains. Okay. Metaphorically speaking, there are people behind the curtains that are way beyond anything we can comprehend. Okay. And when you take the most powerful country in the history of the world, to destabilize that country, to fracture it, you start dividing everybody on every metric possible. And you do that through media. Okay. Hey, like there's a lot of Hispanics that didn't vote for Trump. There's a lot of Hispanics that voted for Trump. A lot of blacks that didn't, a lot of blacks that did. Where are their voices? How come we're only seeing one side of the picture? You know what I mean? They're doing that on purpose. And if you are naive and gullible enough to eat that shit sandwich, that's why your breath stinks, stupid. That's on you. That's not on me. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
we have way more in common than we don't. But people that have a vested interest in destroying the stability of a nation are doing it right before our eyes. And there's an ever widening gulf between us that I don't think will ever be repaired. That's where guys like you and I come in, guys that do this job for the right reasons, and you doing what you're doing now for the right reasons. If I can help one person, it's a success. I can't listen. My main mission is there's people out there struggling so deeply. My mission is to do everything I can to bring every one of them back. And I'm not going to be able to do it. And I realize that, but I do what's in my control. And I've had people reach out to me, man, and be like, hey, dude, like I was this close. And because of what you said and what you shared with me, I have a new perspective on it. Soren had an awesome analogy. He's like, when you're fighting and you're out there between rounds and you're getting punched, kicked, kneed, elbowed, squeezed, taken down, blah, 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 blah. You don't feel it. He's like, between rounds is when you feel it. I'm like, he's like, you're just between rounds right now. I was just like, holy shit, man. That's an awesome analogy. And him and I had like a 2.5 hour conversation a few weeks ago, man. And I just love the dude, man. Like instantly just, some people, man, the second you meet him, it's just like, this guy's going to be one of my lifelong friends. You know what I mean? And he's so gracious. He's so kind. He's so generous. And he just said, just the most sincere, complimentary things. And I was blown away, man. I almost brought me to fuck. I haven't cried since I was a baby, Nick. I was like on the verge. I was just like, stop. You're going to make me fucking cry in my fucking cereal. I was just like, man, I said, I've been doing this for 27 years, bro. And nobody's ever said something so fucking just so good to me, man. And I'll never forget that, man, and I just have a love for the dude that, I'm just so glad that we connected. And then Trent and I, and then Amanda, and then, you and I'm like super grateful for those connections, Also, you guys are like LAPD and shit. You guys are like fucking all-stars. I'm like, holy shit, this LAPD is talking to me? I'm like, this is fucking badass, man, legendary departments, legendary cities. It's fucking cool, dude. I really, really dig it. And I think networking with each other like we are, we're going to do big things. And by the way, your shirt's almost done. So Before I forget, those shirts are almost
Um,
done.
well, speaking of which, no, this is a perfect time to bring up what you're up to right now. So if you can, tell the listeners what you've been up to right now, what you got going on.
So I have multiple avenues of approaching my main mission, which is I don't want anybody to think that they're not welcome to be a part of this journey, but having 27 years in uniform and having to deal with, I hate to say it, but the trauma, the PTSD, excuse me, the mental, emotional, and spiritual damage that these jobs, you know, basically take from you and put upon you, and losing 22 veterans a day and 18 first responders, 40 people a day to suicide because they couldn't handle it anymore. And I don't see these departments or the VA or the mill. I don't think they're doing enough. Maybe they think they are. I'm here to help. I'm here to help carry the load. Basically, that's why I said you can't have them. There's never too many foundations. There's never too many podcasts. Like when I hear, oh, another podcast, oh, another found, I'm like, no, you can't look at it like that, because Nick's podcast might save somebody's life. Chad's podcast might save that one person's life. This foundation might have gotten to that person before they decided to end things. And I buried too many fucking friends, and that the weight of guilt and the weight of regret's the heaviest thing you could ever carry. Figuratively speaking, of course, but I don't want to add any more weight to that fucking load. You know what I mean? And so, and I suffered through it too. When I left the police department, 15 years there, man, I had a pretty exemplary career. I literally have saved multiple lives. I've changed multiple lives, for the better. And when I left, there was no thank you for your service. There was no what can we do to keep you. I barely hear from any of my coworkers or teammates. That shit hurts, man. It hurts in a way I can't even describe. You know what I mean? It's just like, and I don't want other people to feel that, because I reached out to some old teammates that had left before me. And it's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And kind of a perfect way to describe it is when my little brother died. He was 2 years old. And I remember, I guess yesterday, he had leukemia, and I remember seeing him in the hospital, and he just looked so miserable and so exhausted and tired. And he had the little lines on us. He's a little bitty fella. I remember it like yesterday when my dad told us that he had died, and I remember the amount of people that showed up for that funeral was something I'd never seen, and that was 19 fucking 87. All right. About 25 years, 30, I forget, right mid, 20 something years later, we lost a family friend, a guy my age, to cystic fibrosis. He had a double lung transplant, and it seemed to have taken at first, but he died peacefully at home, and one of my personal heroes. And I told his mom and dad, I said, Jake was sick his whole life, but he never bitched, he never complained. I said, he was a tough son of a bitch. And that's something I aspire to be. And I always fall back on that. I'm like, hey, look, people are counting on you. You got to tell yourself you're the toughest motherfucker on this planet, because you are. Okay. And that's not physical toughness, even though I have been hitting that with a bat. His mom went to my mom at that funeral service, and she said, Joe, I'm so sorry. And my mom said, for what? She's like, I didn't know it hurt this bad. And when you get perspective like that, and having seen so many people in the communities that I worked in, I've had to tell people, Nick, I'm like, man, your son was shot and killed. I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't get that fucking class in the academy. This is how you tell a mother her son was gunned down, shot in the back of the fucking head outside a fucking Bofeng Rice House on fucking Grand. You know what I mean? Or Bing Lao, whichever one it was. You're not ready for that. It's not part of the human condition. And these things, in doing this day in, day out for years and years and years, dealing with the worst of humanity when they're at their worst, they're most vulnerable, they're ugliest, you could even say, man, it destroys you. It can destroy you. I'm not going to let it. John McPhee, the sheriff of Baghdad, he's like the big I'm just enamored by that guy. Listen, nobody really does that to me. If somebody said, "Hey, if you could meet any celebrity fucking one," I'd be like, "Well, I'd love to meet Marcus Aurelius, one of the Caesars. I'd love to fucking have a conversation with Abraham Lincoln. Like legit. Nikolai Tesla. I'd be like, just teach me. You know what I mean? Um, it's yeah, I don't know, man. It's McPhee. That guy is just like a legend among legends among legends. There might not be another McPhee in human history. This guy was doing sortie missions in Afghanistan, acting like a psychotic cab driver. They're like, it's like, dude, you go to a checkpoint. They're like, how did you get there? He'd be like, I just get out and start going. I mean, he's like a massive. I'd be like, okay, bro, you're good. You're good. And I don't really think they observe like driver's license laws in Afghanistan, but he talked about the PTSD, the TV's like, he's like, yeah, I have all this. Like, I just choose not to fuck with it or deal with it. I just pretend it doesn't exist. And I'm like, because a lot of people fall into that trap, and they let it become like a crutch, you know? And I'm like, man, it's just like, hearing something like Soren said gave me some new perspective. Hearing McPhee say, it's like, I don't have to deal, it's never going away, but I don't have to carry it around anymore. You know what I mean? And having that kind of outlook is about the only thing that will help you get out of bed some days. You know what I mean? And when you know that there are people out there that actually, my big thing was like, nobody fucking cares, man. Nobody cares. It's like that stupid fucking, all these want to be tough guys in gyms now, nobody cares, work harder. I'm like, careful, we got a badass over here. Nobody cares, bro. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I'm like, well, that's not true. I care. Does that mean I'm not a tough guy like you? You know what I mean? Even I beat the fucking brakes off of you 7 days a week, but I care. I'm not trying to sound like a fucking asshole. I care. You can't act like people because we do fucking care, man.
Right.
And I tell everybody out there, it's like, my phone's on 24/7. All you got to do is call or text me, man. I don't care what you're going through. I had an old war buddy of mine reach out the other day. We lost contact for years. Okay, it turns out that he turned to fucking drugs to deal with it. He and Nick, he is one of the most. His IQ is probably, it's got to be in the one. He's a genius in a lot of regards. I shit you not, man. Just one of those. We all know one of those people that is just excels at everything he does. Everything. He's like Eddie Van Halen. You know what I mean? You give the guy a toaster, he'll play fucking Eruption on it. And he reached out. I lost track of him for years. I thought he was dead. I didn't know where he was. Nobody knew where he was. He got wrapped up in drugs, did a bunch of prison time, got shot, basically lost his family. And he reached out to me. He's like, I was so ashamed. I was like, you don't have to be ashamed, man. It's okay to be fucking human. It's a fundamental aspect of who we fucking are. Don't ever be ashamed of fucking wanting to give up and wanting to throw in the towel. I've been there a million times, man. I tell people all the time, one of the biggest lessons I've learned, and one of the things that really kind of helped me focus and move forward with this mission, is reading a book by a guy named Tom Satterley, who is a command sergeant major for the Delta Force. They're called CAG now. I mean, this is like, he's like another McPhee. Okay. I see him in movies are about this guy. Okay. He was in Mogadishu with the whole Black Hawk Down thing. I read his book. I've read a million military books and it's all the same. It's the same, cheesy dialogue. I'm like, you didn't really say that. You didn't really do that. I know you're embellishing shit for fucking, kind of like get your likes and stuff up. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was his level of vulnerability. Okay. This is one of the, like, objectively speaking, one of the most insanely qualified human beings ever walked this fucking planet. This is like Leonidas level shit. Okay. And he struggled with alcohol addiction, painkiller addiction, couldn't hold a marriage together, lost contact with his son. This guy was going through it, man, couldn't have got any lower. And he basically had a plan to end it. Okay. And long story short, his now wife sent him a text and said, "Hey, everybody's waiting on you down here, blah, 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 blah." He just chose not to do it. I'm like, it's the vulnerability thing. It's okay, man. It is okay. It doesn't make you weak to feel fucking vulnerable, to feel sad, to be depressed, to fucking, like I said, dude, I slept with my gun by my bed for 15 fucking years, still there. Okay. And it's a reminder. It's just like, hey, the temptation's there, but your willpower is a lot fucking stronger to keep pushing forward. And you have people that need help. And I don't care if people look at me and go, "Oh, man, I thought Cross was a badass." I'm like, I don't care what you think about me. I couldn't care less. Okay. I'm here to help people. You know what I mean? And if exposing my belly, so to speak, showing vulnerability, like, hey, listen, I've been there, man. I wanted to throw in the towel. I've been through shit people can't comprehend. Okay. Life has kicked me in the fucking teeth, brother. I'm still fucking going. You ain't going to stop me. You're welcome to fucking try. That's what I tell people when I'm training them. Okay. Whether it's in like MMA, whatever it is. Okay. And they're at the point of exhaustion. And I get down there and I whisper in their ear, "I'm going to fucking break you." You know what the only acceptable response to that is? Good fucking luck. That's the mentality you got to have. I don't want to break them. I want to teach them that you are capable of so much more than you think. You know what I mean? I got a buddy of mine. He's a mountain of a man. Okay, it's like fighting Hopthor Bjornsson. That gigantic fucking Scandinavian fucking mutant. This guy outweighs me by 100 pounds. He played football at Mizzou. Like when we square off, I'm like looking up at this fucking colossus, and you know, I trip him, I take him down, I get full mount, I start bink, 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 binking. I'm like, nobody's coming. What are you gonna do? You got to escape, bro. You can't find your fucking A call button. You can't find your fucking pistol. This is on you. You got to believe in yourself. You got the tools to fucking keep pushing through. And that's all I'm trying to teach people is I can keep going when I've wanted to fucking quit and give in and throw the towel in so many times. So can you. And we're all in this together. You're not here alone. Is my biggest message. You're not alone. Okay. So, yeah, I'll wrap it up on that. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. You can wrangle me in and whatever you want.
No, I wanted you to keep going because I think both the veteran and law enforcement community, that's a big message that I think isn't it's told enough, is that it's
Well, I
okay to
tell
be
you,
vulnerable.
you feel alone because the VA is so lazy, so inept, so incompetent. I'm just trying to get a rating for my hearing loss, whatever the fuck's growing in my lungs and my feet. Oh, they can't find your records. It's this, it's that. Fill out 50,000 different forms. Well, it's just like, it's a nightmare. And this is where a lot of people just give up, Nick. They're just like, I can't fucking do it anymore. I can't even get seen to get a rating. Nothing. You know what I mean? It feels like such an insurmountable fucking mountain to climb, and the thing I'm doing with my nonprofit, everything all ties together, even what you guys are doing on your end, it all ties together. This is going to happen. It's not if, it's when. I'm going to have a fucking big fucking building that's going to be an all-in-one inclusive training compound. Well, maybe not a compound. It sounds like I'm writing a fucking manifesto. Big training center, okay? All the weight training stuff, some sort of cafe or cafeteria, but everything's going to be military style. We're going to have the worst hot sauce, the worst food, really bring back those horrible fucking memories, but it's like building that, the biggest thing is, again, being human beings, we want to feel like we're a part of something, a community. That's gone. I don't feel like I'm a part of anything anymore. I don't hear from my fucking bros, my teammates, guys that I've been on life and death situations with. I don't hear from them. And that's not even me taking a fucking swing at them. It's just like, man, what the fuck's going on that we don't mean anything to each other? Because I'd take a bullet for any one of those guys still to this day. They mean the world to me. Okay. And it hurts my heart knowing that, or just feeling like you don't mean anything to them. But I want people to understand every one of you mean the fucking world to me, man. And I do anything I could to fucking, to bring you back. And the vision we have for this, me and my buddy Dave and a couple other people, it's going to be. And you hear a lot of times, man, this is like this is a gym. I'm like, no, listen, you weak ass motherfuckers don't get it. this is the pit of fucking suffering. Okay. Suffering teaches you a lot. And when we suffer together, we come through things together. Okay. You're not going to come here and play on your little fucking phone between sets. You bring a phone onto my gym floor, I'm going to break it with my fucking 3-pound sledgehammer. I'm going to throw it like a fucking frisbee. Get the fuck out of here. This ain't the place for you. Okay. We're going to come in here and we are going to go so much further than we thought we're fucking capable of, mentally, physically, and emotionally. But it's that support network. That's what we're building, is that real community. And it's not just for veterans and first responders, because let's be real, man. People's mental health is just fucking is in decline. You know, it will just, a lot of it's on you though. A lot of it's just the kind of decisions you're making and the way you're leading your life. You got to fix what you can. The shit that's out of your hands that you can't fix, that's when we lean on each other. You know, my 40-mile hike, it's symbolic of the 40 people we lose a day. So a pound for each one of those and a mile for each one of those. The symbolism is we help each other carry the load when we're fucking feeling weak or vulnerable or like we're failing. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping some people are going to come out and help me carry that fucking 40-pound fucking rock. You know, it's going to be a long fucking, because I don't train for it. You know, I'm just going to put my mouthpiece in and fucking bite down and grind it out.
Wow.
But, you know, the symbolism is, you know, we carry the load for each other when we're feeling like that, you know?
And when are you, and not to cut you off, but when are you going to be doing it?
Roughly a month from now. I want to get a good break in the weather. I was going to do it on my brother's birthday, which is February 28th, but there's a big, basically a fundraiser every year called Bourbon for Badges, and that's on the 28th. So, you know, and then March here in the Midwest is like, dude, the weather's so schizophrenic. I don't care. I mean, I'll fucking hump through anything, dude. It could be fucking raining yellow diarrhea. I'm still going to get out there and do it. But yeah, I want it to be, I want it to be an event. You know what I mean? I just want people to come out. Hey, we're going to, you know, you're going to do this leg with me. You're going to do this leg with me. And I'm going to finish, like I said, in Old Town St. Charles and hopefully have like a, you know, some kind of little celebration or something. But anything to just keep the awareness at the forefront. Because like we said earlier, people's attention span is nothing. Look at these major things. Is Russia still at war with Ukraine? I don't know. It's not in the news cycle 24/7. Is LA still on fire? No idea. Is it? I'm asking you. I don't fucking know because it's not even in the news anymore. You know, some fucking weirdo geek tried to kill fucking Trump. That's already old news. I'm like, holy shit. It's just about identifying and understanding the times we're in. You know what I mean? If I gotta, you know, Ric Flair fucking crossbody chop you every fucking day and be like, hey, 40 a day, 40 a day, until you get your head out of your fucking ass and start helping me do something, I'm going to keep fucking smacking you. Yeah, figuratively. I know I really don't want to slap anybody, but you know what I'm getting at. So
Right. And, you know, I think it's awesome. And, you know, for letting the people know too, is there a link or a foundation or anything that, you know, people can, because I know we talked offline about, you know, wanting to donate for shirts, and I know you have your own shirt line, and I believe you have
yeah.
a coffee line coming out too as well, right? Is there
Yeah, dude, I am this close. That's been a massive. You would think I'm designing some sort of fucking satellite for NASA. I'm like, I'm just trying to put the kind of coffee I want in a fucking can. Astronomical freaking undertaking, man. But I am very, very close. So, and everything's going right back into the ultimate dream of getting the training complex going. So, I mean, look, dude, I'm not in this. I'm only in this to make money so much that I can put it back. Like I literally wear the same 5 shirts. My shoes have holes in them. You know, I'll drive my truck to the wheels. I don't care about material shit. I don't. I care about helping people, you know, and everybody that spends a dime with me, whether you give me 10 grand or 10 cents, I don't care. You mean as much to me as the next, everybody, you know, I'll forever grateful for everybody that's been a part of this. Um,
and what's the
Unfortunately,
sorry, I was just gonna add, what is
sure.
the website? Or what's the yeah, because I believe it's tier one, right?
Yeah, it's tier. It's still it's one, but it's the Roman numeral I now instead of the numeral one.
I see.
unfortunately I had to part ways with my former business partner. So I revamped everything, changed my name, my LLC. The old website is just, it just doesn't, it's down. It's not really good anymore.
Okay.
So everything right now is just through Facebook, you know, because I got to, listen, all this is, I'm investing, I'm basically investing my pension and all my savings into this project. Okay. So everything I do, all the shirt pros, everything goes right back into, the coffee is going to be a smash, bro. It's fucking killer. I've sent you the label before. I really went above and beyond formulating it. Okay. It's sugar free, 120, or I'm sorry, 130 milligrams of caffeine, but it's loaded with alpha GPC, lion's mane, and L-theanine. So you get a really, really good mental clarity boost out of it, as opposed to like the caffeine juice, you know,
Cracked
like,
out.
yeah, it's like, so that between that, the nonprofit, my training and nutrition, everything is all part of the one big goal, you know, as the training center and stuff. So yeah, right now it's just as my Facebook page. People can contact me and DM me through. I don't like to do all the. It's just I don't want to spread my. I'm like, what does TikTok or Instagram do that I can't do through fucking Facebook or a website? I can't spread myself too thin because I'm already incredibly scatterbrained. You know what I mean? It's just like it feels redundant. And so my favorite way to connect with people is in person. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to meet all you guys in person, so I fucking flew to LA, you know, and now we're gonna have like a lifelong fucking friendship and fucking business connection because of it, as opposed to, well, yeah, we fucking talk by DM here and there, or he liked one of my stupid Instagram posts or something. You know, those in-person real connections are invaluable and you can't replace them. So, but yeah, I will have, I've already contacted people about building websites. I made a Facebook post about websites, and I go to my spam folder and it's like this long of all these. It's like, so Beatrice Gettysburg from South Africa wants to help me. I'm like, I'm like so fucking like out of the loop with this shit. I'm like, hey, how's it going? I appreciate your. I'm like, oh my God, these are fucking scammers and bots and shit. So that's, you don't even know who's like fucking real or anything anymore, man. It's
Right.
you know, so I will have another website up, and because my last website was fucking awesome. It had all my training stuff, all the clothing stuff, had all the Stacy's, you know, her book and her, you know, and her therapy sessions and everything. It was really, really nice. I don't know how to do it. You know, I know how to use like fucking, you know, paint, like the paint application. I can do rudimentary drawings with my fucking mouse. That's about all I know, man. I'm like really, really bad at technology. So I'll probably have to like hire like some sort of technical advisor or somebody that's good with that stuff. But yeah, as of right now, it's just Facebook. Anybody can reach out to me there. And my
Just
shirts
Chad
are sold out.
Cross.
Chad William. Yeah,
It's
I'll
just Chad
share.
William. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you a screenshot and you can share it if you want. But
Okay.
yeah, my shirts are already sold out again, man. They always sell
Oh
out.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I do pretty small runs, but they always sell out. But when I really get the shit going on, I'll probably have, you know, I'll have a good, you know, maybe 1,000 shirts on there or something. I'll really beef it back up again.
Wow. And I will yeah, I'll be sure to yeah, to send out your information. Shoot it out as much as I can to help grow your business and your merch.
Yeah,
And yeah, look,
Soren always wears the shirt on the pile. Always looks badass. You know, I'm like super thankful for that.
it's definitely, yeah. Soren's a great guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing your coffee line and your shit coming out for your upcoming ruck.
Yeah, dude. The so I already got some other ideas for the coffee stuff. I'm going to come out with a Cholo blend. Make America horchata again.
I'd buy 10 packs already.
Fucking Cholo blend. Yeah,
Put me down for
I
10
got a
packs.
fitness program that includes Cholo squats too.
There you go, Cholo Fit.
Bring it down, eh? Represent your clica.
That's it. Oh,
I love it.
you got to wear the high socks too while you do it.
I got a pair. Somebody fucking I know who it is, but I wasn't sure at first. I got this pair of socks in the mail, and they go all the way up. And I can't fit them over my knees actually, because I'm one of those weirdos that actually trains legs. And so my legs aren't the same diameter from my hip to my ankle. Okay. But it's like these they're like fucking chicken legs. I'm like, wait,
I've seen
I don't
those.
have fucking chicken legs. But they're when I put them on, it looks like, you know, they're like a little fucking 3-pronged chicken foot on.
Right.
Like, No, very clever. But yeah, dude, I'll do my Cholo, series for people that are in Boys Town or doing some time in the fucking business. I stay in shape,
That's it.
Uh, but
Get ready
yeah,
for that pinta.
everything's gaining traction, man, and it's all for like a very like everything I do is legit from the heart, man. I don't have any angles on people. I'm not trying to get over on anybody at all. I'm doing this. I believe in this so much only because I've suffered long enough, man. And it's just like it's a god awful fit. It's torment, man. It's nothing sort of like fucking torment. You've been through, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can look at somebody, I look in their eyes, I'm like, I've been there. You know what I mean? Like people have like sometimes I zone out and they're just like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess, they're just like, holy shit. I'm like, it is what it is, bro. It's a burden and a weight I fucking carry, but I have to because people need fucking help, So that's all I have to say about it. I am on my fucking Terminator T800, bro. Can't be stopped.
Well, you know what, Chad? Keep up the great work, man. It's incredible work that you're doing.
Thanks,
Um,
man. Thank you for your help and your support too, dude. Honestly, man, it means the world to me.
no, likewise, man. I'm here to help you in any way I can, and thank you for coming on and being able to tell your story and everything that's what you've got going on in the world, and keep spreading the message of positivity. And kind of going back real quick before we sign off, we kind of talked about kind of feels like we're fighting a losing battle as far as what we can do to just to help one another on just a basic human level. And I think what you said, I think, is the way that we do win it is putting a little bit of positivity out every single day, and it becomes that butterfly effect.
Yeah, it's the karmic law, man. You attract what you put out. There's something to be said for it. I've had to own up to my own bullshit before. I'm like, hey man, you got a kind of a my old partner was a fucking he was the best, man. That guy always had a positive attitude because I would be the one that would lose my shit and get pissed off when we're doing all this dumb, nonsensical bullshit that it's needless. It doesn't make any sense. And it was always, well, it is what it is. I'm like, no, man, it's just this is why people leave. This is why people leave. This is why people leave the military. This is why they leave police departments because you guys are just okay with saying that and never changing any. You don't need to do a $10 million study to understand that police departments are hemorrhaging good quality people. And it's the same answer across the board. I got tired of the bullshit. I got tired of not, the pay thing has never really been an issue for me, not having a wife or kids or anything. I mean, I have 4 very spoiled cats that get to eat salmon and sardines. And on special occasions, I feed them chopped skin mice if they've been good. But that the pay has never been a thing for me. But I'm also a realist, and I realize if you want to attract quality people, you're going to have to offer them, an attractive package. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, man. But I'm here to do it. I'm here to put in the work. So
Awesome. Attitude of gratitude. All right.
yeah, and
Well,
you're doing it too. And the way you're doing it, you left and became doing counseling like what you're I know another guy, I told him, I'm like, hey dude, it's like it's the fucking rage. It's the anger. I control it, thank God. But I'm like, how do I cut it loose? He was shot in the line of duty and retired and now he's like a counselor, he's just a great, great dude. And he's like, they've been doing these studies for decades. Just to leave you with this important point because it's very poignant and it should be an eye opener, but it won't. They've been doing these studies for decades. Hey, basically, essentially, it boils down to where do you experience the most stress on the job? Guess what? Like 85% of the answers are the department itself. And I'm like, do you think? As Bill Hicks would say, do you think? I mean, yeah, and nobody changed it. And listen, I'm not hey, you're doing this. I'm like, let's just fix it, man. We need good people. Do we need people to believe in this job? We need people with good hearts whose hearts are in the right place. They're leaving left and right. A lot of people that stay because they're kind of trapped. They got fucking bills and kids and they need insurance and stuff. And maybe their hearts aren't in it. And I don't blame them. You can only take so much abuse before you just kind of disconnect from the whole thing and just kind of start phoning shit in. I don't want to get to that point, you know. I still care about what I do very much. So anyway, I don't want to open that can of worms, but it's just a very that's something I think people are just not aware of, you know, unfortunately. So
But I mean, hey, sounds like you've had a lot of battles with your own self and
daily,
your
I
own
still battle
journey.
this shit daily, man. I
Yeah.
do. It is. It's a journey. You know, it's a journey of self discovery, of reinvention. You know, finding. I'm not even saying finding your happiness. You know, finding your purpose. When you realize what your purpose is, dude, it's like a come to Jesus moment. It's just like this is what I'm here for. You know, my old team leader. You know, we still stay in touch, and I was like, hey, dude, are you having like dreams and nightmares and this and that? He's like, yeah. It's like, yeah, dude, me too. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm trying to, discover, what that shit means, you know? And then he said something that always stick with me. It's like, listen, he said, look at it like it happened for you, not that it happened to you. I'm like, another very poignant perspective, you know, like Soren's perspective, like McPhee's perspective, like that. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, something, you know, like that movie Signs, man. That was a brilliant fucking movie. Okay, you know, there's just things that happen that are just like a little bit too. This isn't just happenstance or coincidence. This is the universe, God, whatever, however you want to identify it, putting you on your path. You know, and it's like with my program. I put you on the path. I give you the blueprints. I give you the roadmap. If you execute it, your wildest dreams will come true. You know what I mean? But it's just like it's hard, man, because you sit there and go, "Is this a sign? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing?" But when you know what your it's like we all dream of meeting that person. The second you make eye contact with them, you just fucking know this is my person. I just found my fucking person. You know, I think even the toughest of us probably secretly long for something like that. You know what I mean? But not me because I'm too fucking tough. You know what I mean? I don't buy flowers and write haikus and poems and shit. Um, but yeah, dude, knowing what your purpose, and I know my purpose. My purpose is this: it's helping people. You know what I mean? It's just like it makes me happy. It helps me to heal. You know, it's that karmic retribution, that karmic reciprocity. You know, and I don't do it because I want good things. I do it because it's my nature. You know, it's just like the parable. You know, I like to use analogies and parables and stuff. And you know, I always quote Marcus Aurelius. You know, he said, when you understand the nature of something, its behaviors and its actions make sense. You know, there's the parable of the scorpion and the frog. Scorpion asks the little froggy for a ride across the river. And the frog says, well, you'll sting me. And the scorpion says, no, if I sting you, I'll drown. Well, the frog says, okay. Gets him across the other side. As soon as he fucking jumps off, bink, jabs him. And the frog's lying there, you know, dying. Is like, why'd you do that? And the scorpion said, it's my nature. Boom, there you go. I mean, it all makes sense when you understand the nature of a thing, all its behaviors and all its actions and proclivities make perfect sense. So my nature is just kindness, you know, kindness and showing people mercy and grace when they deserve it and enacting great acts of violence upon them when they don't. The duality of man, right?
The duality of man. To take the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah. The duality of man, to quote Rafter Man from fucking Full Metal Jacket.
Oh man. That's don't get me started on Full Metal Jacket. That could be another 3 hour, one of the
That
best
we'll
movies of
have.
all
Hey,
time.
you know what would be a fun thing to do at the end of your show? You just come up with 10 people, 10 one-word responses. You'd be like, okay, boom, so and so. And then your guest just gives you a one-word response. Like if you were to say Trent, I'd be like, lunatic, Soren, ultimate cholo. That's 2 words. Ultimate hyphen cholo. Amanda, Jesus, flaky. Shit, like it'll be a fucking blast. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I love all three of them very much. But it'd be fun. I just think you'd be like, oh shit, like off the cuff, like okay, first word that pops into your mind.
No, no, you're right. I'm gonna keep that in mind.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Hey, what about Sheriff Luna? Cunt.
Oh
Um,
God. Oh man. God, yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms.
Oh, dude, it's
Um,
disgraceful, man. It's hard to believe that this is actually happening in real time, man. Like, I just, it's, I can't. What the only thing that's ever going to change any of this, Nick, is if enough public pressure starts being put on these departments. You know, people, anybody that represents a community is going to put their feet to the fire and be like, you have lost. I'll use St. Louis City, for example. Last I looked, last I heard, and these numbers are give or take, well over 300 officers short. And when you go down to supply, it looks like Mount Sarabachi. The uniforms are stacked to the ceiling. When you go down here, throw them on the pile, throw it on the pile. Second pile started, it reached the ceiling. That should be a massive red flag, a huge wake up call. Somebody needs to be like, hey, listen, we just want to know what's happening. We'd like to know why so many quality people are the kind of people we need policing these neighborhoods and these, in these cities are leaving left and right. Again, it's like, I don't want to see people get in trouble. I don't want to see people get fired. I don't like that's not unless it's like some egregious shit, you know, let's just fix the problem, man. That's all. I just want to fix the problem, but there's I think so many people are afraid that if they actually take accountability or responsibility for it, that they're going to lose their position. I don't know. I don't want to see that unless you are just grossly incompetent or something. The willingness to change and evolve accordingly says to me that, hey, you are in this for the right reasons. I mean, instead of just digging in it's like the anti-tattoo guys that are just like, I mean, well, you're built like fucking King Hippo from Mike Tyson's Punch Out. If you ran 10 yards in a foot pursuit, probably have to let the suspect go to stop to defibrillate you. But you're worried about tattoos. I'm like, make it make sense, man. It's just like at some point, people that have ideas or opinions or ways about them that just legitimately inhibit forward progress, you shouldn't have a seat at the table anymore. I'm sorry. Not everybody's opinion is valid. There's things where my opinion isn't valid. And I understand that, and I don't let my ego, override my fucking better judgment. I'm like, listen, this isn't my wheelhouse. I've had people ask me, hey, how would you diet for a show? I'm like, not my wheelhouse. I don't care about bodybuilding shows. Okay. So ask somebody else. I'll straight up tell you, I don't know. I don't care to know. It's not what I'm interested in. So, but until there's enough public pressure, nothing will ever change, unfortunately. But again, it's about taking control of what I can control. Hey, I can control reaching out to you and being like, hey, you're safe here, man. This is a safe place for you to be weak and to be vulnerable and to be hurt, because we will fix that and we will move forward together stronger. You know what I mean? Like you lean on each other when you have to. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of, again, the 40 miler is just a metaphor for that. When you're feeling weak, tired, exhausted, you can't take another step. Yeah, motherfucker, you can, because I'm going to pick you up and drag you if I have to. You know what I mean? So, and I hope nobody shows up and actually weighs this fucking Alice pack. You know,
like,
all I had in there was like a roll of toilet paper and some jerky. Wasn't really 40 pounds, but anyway. No, I'm gonna put 40 pounds in that motherfucker, man. So
man,
anyway, yeah, I don't want to take up any more of your time, man. I thank you, amigo.
no, thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate you coming on. And I think yeah, before we sign out, I think you said it best. Control what you can control. And
Why stress about the things you can't, man? Life kicks you in the teeth enough. It's out of your control. Keep moving forward because you have a support network here. If it's me, I'll do everything I can. I know you have the same. I know you tell people the same thing. Hey, man, my phone is always on. My door is always open. It's not like in the military where they say have an open door policy, and I go, "Hey, Skipper, you got a minute? Oh, did you go through the corporal, the sergeant, the staff sergeant, the gunny, the first lieutenant, the second lieutenant, the company gunny, the first sergeant? No, bye. Thought you had an open door policy, bro. This is a real open door fucking policy. So,
right.
you know what I mean? Yeah, man. And yeah, dude, we'll continue to work together and network and shit. And then when everything's in place and done, I'm gonna fly out here for the fucking grand opening of the fucking gym, the coffee launch. get everybody out here, man. I want it to be a big fucking event. So
Can't wait. Well, all right, Chad. Thank you so much. Thank you for telling your story and telling the people everything you got going on in life. And
absolutely, man.
thank you so much, Chad. You
Yeah,
have a
we'll do it
great day.
again. And next time we'll do the first word that comes to your mind game.
All right, that sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chad. All right.
See you,
Take
Nick.
care. Bye bye.